So this week we're going to talk about incomplete dominance first. So as it was mentioned in the directions, the first thing you need to do is to put your name on here. Okay, so what is incomplete dominance? Well, incomplete dominance is a pattern of inheritance where one allele, and remember an allele is a form of the gene. So this is where one allele is only partially dominant. Over the other allele. The most common example is the flower color alleles in snapdragons. So let's see what snapdragons are. So you get a picture here, you've got some red snapdragons, some white snapdragons, and some pink ones. See it a little more clearly here separated. Again, you've got white, red, and pink snapdragons. So the two alleles that we're dealing with here are big R for red. Remember, in biology we say big R and little r, and then little r for white. The red allele, big R, is only partially dominant over the white allele. Okay, so in order for it to be a red snapdragon, it's going to have two big R alleles because the big R is only partially dominant. In order for it to be a white snapdragon, it's going to have two little r alleles. If it has one big R allele and one little R allele, it's going to be pink, not white or red. Now, just to point out, the pink is not a result of mixing red and white pigments. In reality, the white allele produces no pigment at all. So it's just that big R, little r plants, so meaning the pink plants, they don't have enough red pigment in order to appear red. So that's why they appear pink. So we're going to do an example here with crossing a pink flowered plant with another pink flowered plant. Okay, so first question we need to answer is, which trait or allele is dominant? Well, remember our capital letter represents what's dominant. So red, big R. But remember, it's only incompletely dominant in this case. Because remember, completely dominant means that you only need one of those alleles to see the full trait. If it were completely dominant, one big R would mean that we have a red snapdragon, but that's not the case. You need two big R's in order to have a red snapdragon. So that's why we're dealing with incomplete dominance here. Now, what is our recessive allele? Well, that's our little r, which represents the white. Okay, so the parent plants here. We said that we're crossing a pink plant with another pink plant. So let's figure out what we're dealing with in terms of the phenotype and the genotype. So remember, the phenotype is what you see. The genotype is the genes. So what do we see? Well, we see pink for both of them. And how do we get pink? Well, we get pink because the underlying has one big R and one little r. So what are the alleles? Well, remember, the genotype is representing both alleles because you inherit one allele from the biological mother and one allele from the biological father. So you have two alleles for each gene. So what are these alleles? Well, there's a big R allele and a little r allele for a plant that is big R, little r. You do need the comma there because you're showing that those are two separate alleles, and they are two separate alleles. So both of these pink plants are big R, little r. Now let's go up to step 3. We want to do these crosses. So we've got a pink plant with another pink plant. Okay, so what's going to happen when they cross? Well, this top corner box, we're going to end up with two big R's. The top right corner, we have a big R and a little r. The bottom left-hand corner, we have a big R and a little r. Remember, if you have a big R and a little r, you put the capital letter first. That's just convention. And then the bottom right, we have 2 little r's. So now we're going to use that information to fill out our genotypic and our phenotypic ratios. So remember, our genotype is the underlying gene. So let's look at our table here at our Punnett square. And we had 1 big R, big R. Okay. We had 2 big R, little r's. And we had 1 little r, little r. So now we're just going to translate those genotypes into the corresponding phenotypes. What do you see? Well, remember with big R, we see red, so we have 1 red. With big R, we see pink, so we have 2 pink. And then with little r, we see white, so we have 1 white. So that's our expected ratios. Now remember, these are just probability, but it's expected that if you crossed a pink plant with another pink plant, that 25% of the offspring would be red, 25% of the offspring would be white, and 50% of the offspring would be pink.